The first set of questions will be continuing on the idea of diversity and equity, specifically talking about discrimination. So this question was submitted by the Black Student League. They were wondering, they said that it seems as though this semester there have been several instances of racial insensitivities on campus. Resulting from that, there have been increased racial tensions. Though no college campus is perfectly sound and peaceful, the Black Student League would like to know how you plan to make sure these racial insensitivities and tensions are quelled so that they do not continue to occur. So, Joyce, you get the first question. First answer this time.
Yeah, that's a really great question, especially in light of the recent events with all these parties. So it's a two-pronged approach. First, there's the faculty aspect, and then there's the student aspect. So currently there's been discrimination on students based on aspects of their identity, especially in terms of the political sphere. This should not be happening on this campus. Recently, certain 5B groups have advocated for faculty diversity training, but it has not really gone through. I think if we bridge communities together, if we bridge POCO, if we bridge the 5B, we can make a concerted, and if the UA further support that, we can make a concerted push to administration saying this is a huge issue, faculty and administrators need to be trained on this. Furthermore, in terms of students, we should, in light of the recent events that had happened as publicized by the DP, we should be creating safe spaces so conversation can happen between different groups so that this kind of thing does not happen and that there are not misunderstandings.
Yeah, Joyce is very, very right about a lot of what she said. I would also add on to the student aspect of it, within the Greek community, because I know one of the issues this past year was an event by several of the houses, Beta and Cairo, that there was some kind of gangsta event or something like that was very insensitive to some people, and some people felt offended as a result of it. I think a better communication between the IFC, PANHEL, and the MTC, the Multi-Greek Council, or the Multicultural Greek Council, would be good, just to make sure that in future when these communities host events, that they do so while being sensitive to what the events might actually mean to certain communities on campus. Not to restrict them, but to make sure that there is some level of attention given. But yes, I agree with very much of what Joyce said.
Yeah. Cool. So the next question was submitted by the MSA. Following the Islamophobic advertisement in the DP last year by the David Horowitz Foundation, Faces of Islamic Apartheid, we were disappointed to not hear a public outcry against the ad, both from the Penn administration and from the UA. How do you plan on ensuring that religious dialogue at Penn amongst all groups is constructive rather than xenophobic? Do you plan on creating checks and balances to avoid future situations like the one we faced last year with the advertisement?
Yeah. Well, let's face it, in this country, unfortunately, it happens that Muslims are not treated the way that they probably should be, for a variety of reasons that we don't necessarily have to go into, but we know. And on this campus, we're no far out of it. We may be on a very intelligent and well-based community, but it still reaches us here. Well, one way we can fix that is by working with PRISM. They do an incredible job, and obviously the MSA, to make sure that those differences between communities can be reached. I know there are a lot of amazing people who work within those communities and are actually leaders on those communities, and MSA will be holding a seat on the University Council this year, making sure that that seat is used to make sure that these kind of discussions are had, and then making sure that at least we can reach out to the DP so that in future they can at least tell us that, hey, look, if this is going to happen, there is some attention given by the UA and the Penn administration about this. But yeah, I think that's probably one good way of doing it.
Yeah. Gabe raises really great points. Fortunately, NSA does have that seat this year, so I think it's really coordinating efforts to make sure there is a response of solidarity between different groups to have this type of public outcry, because that ad was so controversial and so offensive to some members on campus. That's not okay. I think another thing as well is to allow for better student expression to happen. I know the Faith Fund, which is the source of interfaith funding on campus, has received $30,000 in requests, but is only able to provide $10,000 in funding. That's a third. I think it's through collaborations between different groups where students are able to come together, build the solidarity to advocate, and to have this public outcry for these types of events. And that is something I would support the expansion of initiatives like the Faith Fund.
Yeah. And just on top of that, also including religious identity is one of the elements that the university qualifies as some very core basis of someone's particular cultural identity would be critical. The university currently doesn't include religious identity as one of those things. And that would then qualify religious identity as one of those things you cannot both harass and discriminate upon on campus, and would hopefully alleviate the DP or any other body from using it or from publicizing it in some way.
So the next question will be about religious life on campus. Again, submitted by the MSA. The MSA's requirements for prayer space have often been neglected. There have been times when they have been kicked out of their reserved venue for Friday prayers. They were also not given a prayer space in the usual location in the Arch following its renovation this year. How do you plan on addressing issues such as these? And how do you plan on advocating for religious spaces?
Yeah. For years, students have been advocating for an interfaith space with the incredible work of Gabe, along with PRISM members, Mia Gruccio, Julie Perez, and my running mate Josh Chilko. This interfaith center is finally coming online next year, which we're so excited about. It is integral that there is a prayer space for Muslim students on campus so that they could fully express themselves, and I would make sure as president to have that, to advocate for this kind of space within the interfaith center.
Yeah, same. Obviously, kudos to Abe Sutton and to Josh Chilcote and to all the PRISM members for doing that. I mean, it's a fantastic accomplishment. Another element would also be making sure that MSA is able to hire at least a part-time chaplain that's specific to Muslim students in the Muslim community. That's something that's also been neglected in the past and is a very integral part of practicing Islam. And so yes, I would also probably lobby on behalf of the MSA for that very reason. I would hope that they would do so on University Council as well. So yes.
Yeah, so actually there is a Muslim imam, Camila. She is the Interfaith Fellow. However, because she is a fellow, I would make sure that her tenure is granted so that there is a permanent person for MSA.
Yeah, permanent, yes, sir.
So the next question will be about sustainability, submitted by the Penn Environmental Group. What will you personally do to hold the university more accountable to actually fulfilling the climate action plan?
Repeat the question, sorry, again.
What would you personally do to hold the university more accountable to actually fulfilling the climate action plan?
Yeah, so the Student Sustainability Association at Penn does a lot of really great work. And almost in my role as vice president, I've tried to help them as best I possibly can, but they actually do such great work that they really don't need my help in many ways. They have such great connections. But again, we go back to this university council seat. I know there are many issues that include even natural gas and fossil fuel divestment. Potentially an idea for bringing this up in University Council next year. I know this is supported by many members of SAP. If that is something that is very serious about getting on, that they're very serious about getting onto the agenda, I would work certainly with them and all the other relevant groups that are interested in doing such to get this at least on the agenda to begin discussion on it. That would be one element of it, and the second is really supporting SAP as they try to make the university more accountable. I don't think the UA should really step on anyone's toes in terms of what they're already doing, but I would support them every way I possibly can, and certainly through UA resolutions, certainly through the liaison system, so we have proper communication channels. Those are all critical elements of really making the university more accountable.
Yeah, Gabe's absolutely right. SAP really does an incredible job. I've actually done extensive work with them. In fact, about an hour ago, I was just at a meeting with different administrators to implement a food recovery program here at Penn. So food recovery means that we take our perishable items and the things that are salvageable, donate them to our West Philadelphia neighbors, those who are most in need. Recently, SNAP benefits have been cut, and so people who have used to have access to food stamps are no longer able to, so that is very problematic. So this would be one way of Penn being able to fulfill its climate action plan. Also, furthermore, I recently talked to Michael Shostak, and he wants to implement a compost program where different student groups who have a lot of food at their events have these compost bags. And I actually recently connected SAP to the UMC to implement this pilot program. So I'd love to expand this moving forward.
How about it?
So the next two questions will be about women's issues. The first question, sexual assault is a serious but largely unaddressed